Hi, hi everyone. Welcome to another discussion that I'll be having today. Um, today we're going to be listening to Hotep, Talah Amun, also known as Dr. Leon Morse. It's interesting that he has two names. That's something we're going to also look at. And I'm the host, Uchenna. Yeah, so today we're going to be discussing about self-consciousness. Sounds a little lofty. The name consciousness might sound a bit academic or I don't know, spiritual to some people. But what we're talking about basically is just the nature of the self, who you are, who I am, and all the aspects that have to do with the self and our existence on this plane, on planet Earth. So my brother has been teaching about this subject for as long as I've known him, and that's been quite a few years, almost running into a decade. And he has written a book that I know that I bought. He has a podcast where he constantly discusses about the nature of the self and how to reconnect with our real original self. And yeah, so that's what we're going to be discussing today, because I believe from my own experience, that there's no life is not meaningful basically if you haven't connected with yourself. And we don't learn it in school. Society doesn't teach us that. It's not an academic process. So it's something a lot of us have to stumble upon in life. And by discussing this with him, we are providing an opportunity for somebody else to stumble upon it too. Same way I stumbled upon it in a way, and I'm sure a lot of us, anybody that's seen the title of this video and has decided to listen to it, it shows that you're ready to even give it an opportunity. It's not everybody that's interested in listening to this kind of discussions. So I'll let my brother. I don't want to introduce him per se, because his journey has been, very deep, and I would like him to speak about himself and how he has been here, where he, just to summarize for us, because it's not possible to explain or describe our whole life, in one video. So, Brother Hotep, I'd like you to just give us a brief summary of, where you've been, how you got to do what you're doing, if possible, how it started out for you, and, yeah.
What was that the last question?
The question is,
just the last one, the very last thing. I know you said where I've been, how I come to this level, to where I'm at right now, and then you said one last thing before you turned it over to me. I didn't hear it that well.
It doesn't matter. I can't remember it. So just...
Okay, fine. All right, good. Got you. First of all, I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to share with your audience. I mean, it really means a lot to me, because I felt your heart. I felt our connection consciously, and which this subject is all about. Is about conscious, discovering the true self. And just to give you a quick background, I grew up in Jersey, New Jersey, and eventually I went through the military. I was in the military. I served 4 years in the United States Navy. When I got out, I left. I wasn't really interested in creating a career out of it. I was pretty much on the conscious level of just finding employment and, enjoying life. And so with that being said, I'm gonna jump right into the consciousness first, and then I'm gonna go back to how I got here. Consciousness, you got different levels of it, obviously. You can be just awoke. Most people will just know the general concept of consciousness. Okay, we are conscious. But we've discovered that there are levels of consciousness. There are various levels of consciousness. Example, you could be conscious of your personal self, your personification, your physical body. You're conscious that you're alive. Let's just say you're conscious that you're alive. So that's one aspect of consciousness. Or let's say you get knocked out, you was a fighter and you got knocked out and you were unconscious. So when you wake up, you are conscious again. So most people are familiar with that. So we're pointing to the different levels of consciousness. And the different levels of consciousness are from a physical to a spiritual to a soul to a mental to the omnipresent self. And with that being said, because we could get into that later, but I just wanted to go right back to after the Navy. I went back home. I was stationed in California. I went back home. My career was in heating and air conditioning. I was on a repair ship. I traveled around the world, or let's say halfway around the world. I made a Westpac. So I've been to like maybe 15 different countries. And so I had that experience on my belt. I got out, went back home, ended up meeting an old friend who was going through a school of thought called, at that time, Ansar Allah Community, headed by Imam Isa, also known as Malachi Z. York. It changed names over the years to Holy Tabernacle Ministries, the Nawapian Nation, so forth and so on. And all these changes of names and that whole school was basically a university, a real university, not a university that most people are familiar with, where you go to a university, get your doctor's degree or your attorney's degree, your law degree, or things like that. But this was about discovering or learning the universe. This was about universe and everything in it. The primary focus of this university was to go inside and discover your true self, which in the scriptures, in the Bible said, behold, the kingdom of heaven is within you. That's in St. Luke 17:21. So that we was looking as above, so below. So you inwardly and outwardly, we study extensively. So I was a very good student. I was very disciplined, still am. And through this walk, I've learned a lot of information, and then I went beyond information to what we also term as outformation. Information is all the information that you can possibly learn through books, through study, that type of thing. Outformation just means it's out of form. It's not within a form, like even a content or a book or anything like that. It's basically the true self. Is really discovering the true self, which is a level of consciousness. And that's where we are. That's what we're here to discuss, the different levels. And I feel like I've reached, not that I feel like I've reached, based on, I could say I feel that I've reached the highest level of consciousness based on my conversations with human beings and their idea of themselves. And this level of consciousness, you can't really learn it through a book. Only thing we can do as far as we can point to it. At this level of consciousness, you have to discover for yourself. You have to discover it. Just like almost as the example, if you get knocked out and then you wake up, you realize that you was knocked out. Most people realize that there was a blackout for a period of time. Or somebody would say, you blacked out for a period of time. Now you awoke, you're conscious. This is like that. You have to discover it. And the reason why most people have not discovered it yet is because our attention is drawn out to person, places, and things. We're distracted by the world. We're distracted outwardly. So very few redirect their attention inwardly. And when you do that, you have an opportunity to discover a higher level of consciousness. In fact, an omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient level of consciousness.
Yeah, sorry, I know I know I said this wasn't going to be like an interview type of question, but there's something I feel I didn't get from your explanation. Every other thing sounds very, I feel you very well. But what exactly led you to this path? How, or have you always been on the path? Or was there an experience? Was there something that took you there?
Yes, my desire to know. My desire to know the truth. That was my motivation. My desire to know the truth has brought me to where I'm at right now. And all of those things that I've just shared was a part of that journey, in my search of the truth. I was a Christian. I grew up as a Christian. My parents kept me in church, kept me and my brother and sisters in church. So even in church, I was looking for the truth. I knew I could not live by the truth as it was being taught to me, or by the truth that was being taught to me through religion. I knew I couldn't be what they were expecting a good Christian to be. I was young. I was still experiencing the world. I was enjoying the pleasures of the world, and I wasn't ready to stop. I wasn't ready to stop doing what I was doing. Plus, I didn't believe that a God would burn me up forever and ever if I didn't do right. I've always felt that I was basically a good person, right? So I couldn't fathom that God would burn me forever and ever just because maybe I smoked the marijuana, or I was partying at the club and doing what I was doing. I knew I had the love of Christ in my heart, but I did when it was presented to me that I might be studying something wrong or information was incomplete, I immediately sought out that information. In fact, I left my wife, my son, everybody to get that, to on this journey, on this quest for the Golden Grail. I went on this search. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to chip in a few things, from my own experience of life. I was born in Nigeria, so we're a very heavily religious country, and I was born in the Christian side of the world, and so it's so glaring, how we are, how most of us, are stuck in the ideologies that we were brought up in, especially when it comes to religion and finding meaning in life. The reason I believe, that science hasn't taken the place of religion, even with all the developments with the Zoom and the Facebook and everything, people still don't want to, at least majority of the people, not trade finding meaning in their life for scientific evolution. And the reason is that we look for meaning in life, even after everything we get, after getting married, after getting the degrees, after finishing school, everything, there's still that void that exists in us, and we have to fill it with meaning. So people use religion, to fill it with meaning. When I was 18 years old, that was when I stopped going to church, in a way. That was the same time I left my home and I went to the university, and I started questioning everything about life, everything about myself, and I started my journey from there. It's been quite a long while. It's been on and off, just going in, going out, going in, going out, but never really forgetting, that there's a being inside of me, that is not what I'm expressing. So I've always lived that life of separation. So I know that what I'm doing on the outside is not really who I am, and I just never felt. I don't know. I didn't have the exposure or the resources to, or maybe the environment wasn't conducive enough, to probe deeper. So I was doing much of the work, much of the reflection by myself, by my journaling, by my writing, Most of those things I wrote then, they've, I don't know where they are. They've evaporated, you know, into nature. But I can remember that I used to do a lot of writing, you know, when I was in times of trouble and whatever. So it's just, it's just amazing to know that, you know, I'm a big believer, you know, in duality. Not believer in the sense of believing in it. You know, words are very difficult. Words are easy to be misinterpreted, and you know, people have different meanings for different words. So when I say believe, it just means that I've experienced duality for a while. The same way you have two names, I also have two names. I don't know why my parents decided to do it. I had a name I was using in school, and I had a different name that they called me at home. So I've always experienced that that separation from birth. And growing up, you know, I just knew that I was a different person inside, and there was a different person acting on the outside. And whenever I come back home to the quietness of myself, you know, I start looking back and questioning myself, you know, why, like, you know, I was always talking to myself. So, and I think we all still do that, you know, we talk to ourselves, you know, most of the time. Everybody does that. There's no way, as long as you have a brain and you're alive, you're going to be talking to yourself. And the problem we have, you know, is when we are doing that self-talk unconsciously, when we don't even know that we are making that conversation in our minds, and we don't, and we don't observe, or you know, or we don't know who is saying what, you know. So it's just so it's just being that I won't call it confusion in a way. Yeah, it's a bit confusing. It's a bit chaotic, you know, and that's how life is. Life is full of chaos. But I know that from chaos comes order and the intelligence that we're all, you know, living by. So my life, my journey, you know, has been one of managing, you know, my two selves. And luckily for me, well, you said at the end that you left your family, your wife and your child. But I didn't. Well, I wasn't married at that time, so I couldn't take that extreme decision. But I left my family and I left everybody I knew in Nigeria to come to Glasgow. You know, just to choose a quiet place where I didn't know anybody. And you know, and since I came here, I've been able to reflect and grow in the way, you know, that I can express the voice, the true calling, the true voice that's coming from inside or within of me. It cannot be perfect. It's impossible to achieve that perfection, because we have a body. The body has its need. We have a mind that is always trying to limit us, or always trying to the mind is always trying to get its own way, basically. That's how I've come up now, and I've been trying to document my journey, you know, as I move on in life. The whole academic story is not. I just needed it to stay away from Nigeria. It has nothing to do with. I won't say it has nothing to do with what I'm doing, because everything that we do in life, you know, is part of our story. It's part of the journey. It's part of what we're going through. It's part of our learning. There's no second or time, or you know, if you believe in time, there's no time that is wasted, basically, you know. So whatever we do every day, you know, adds up. And there's a saying that always sticks with me all the time, you know. Can't remember who said it, but it goes like this: who you think you are is why we do what we do. So the reason why I do what I do You know, the reason why I write what I write on Facebook, the way I write it, and the reason why I started doing these videos, the way I do them, you know, is just to speak my truth. And in the speaking of the truth, you know, there are two elements there again. There's the element of the ego, and there's the element of the healing or the truth. So, but I tend to focus more, you know, on being myself and trying to heal myself of my own of the false beliefs, you know, that I've grown up with over the years. And I know from your teachings, you know, when we say the word I, the question now is, who is the I? Is there a one I, or are there two eyes? I'm talking of, for the people listening, I'm talking of I in terms of I as in pronoun for you, not I as in EYE, even though it could be I too, because everything is looking at us. But is there one I? And this is the question I'm asking you now. You know, is there one I? And if there is one I, is it possible to be that I?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah,
It's possible to be that I
part.
without
Yeah.
how do I put it? Without conflict coming in from the world or from the physical, from yourself. Is there another side of the I that's competing, you know, with that I?
Absolutely. First of all, I appreciate what you shared. And I heard a few things in your conversation. I'm one who listens for that I. I listen to people. I'm a very good listener. And I listen to hear the I, the supreme I. And before I share that, I want to clear up couple things. One, I said I left my family. Actually, I asked at the time this information, a certain level of information came to me, which raised me from one level of consciousness, which was at that time I was married, I had a newborn, I was in the politics, I was there, had a house, you know, I was trying to, you know, raise a family. And then this information came to me that was different, that changed or raised my level of consciousness, changed my outlook on the world and religion. It brought certain questions to mind that made me question what I had been taught. So when the information was coming out of Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia at that time. So actually it was coming out of New York and it was moving to Georgia. This whole organization was moving to Georgia. So when I told my wife about it, and she was afraid of it. She was afraid of that this different type of information would it was like a cult. It was like, because anything outside of mainstream religion, with primarily Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, people view it as a cult. Even Christians may view Islam teachings as a cult, and Muslims you might say Christian is a cult, and the Catholic is saying all of this is a cult. And so I asked my wife to move to Georgia with me, and you know, because change was happening rapidly, my level of consciousness had expanded, and I needed to go to Georgia to confront where this information was coming from. I needed my questions answered, all of them. And so I asked my wife to come, and she said she was afraid. So fear, and I asked her, I put my cards on the table to tell her where I was, where I was at consciously, and what I was reading, and I wanted the facts. And it was all based around facts. It wasn't based around belief. It was based around facts. In fact, the teacher of this information was saying, "Don't believe a word I say. Check it out." It wasn't saying trust me, believe me, none of that, which was right up my alley because I was used to people saying believe me, trust me. So when I asked her to examine this information, she was afraid to really examine it. And the information she did examine, she was uncomfortable with. So when I said, as the man of the house, we're moving to Georgia, she was like, I'm not going. She made the choice of not going. And my soul compelled me. I had to go search out this information. As I said, my desire for the truth preceded everything in life. I have to know the truth. And so that's when I left, and she chose to go another place. We sold our house. I gave her half the money. I took the other half and moved to Georgia. And now we're great friends, and me and my son is real tight. Everything worked out like I knew it would work out in the end, because I knew my intentions was pure. So with that being said, I want to make that clear, just in case somebody's saying, well, this guy left his family, because people will focus on what they want to focus on, and they will ignore the rest of the information. So now I want to get to the information that you talked about, duality and the word I. There is two I's. There is an I. It's an I that we're not paying attention to. That I is I am that I am. When we hear that word, I am that I am, most people associate that with God's name. When Moses was leading the Israelites out of bondage, before he let them out, and he had that conversation with God, he asked God, who shall I say sent me? And God responds with, I am that I am. So I am is a full sentence. I am, there's a subject and a verb. Am is just like Jesus wept. They say Jesus wept is the shortest sentence. Well, I am is a short sentence. And so I am, if you say that to yourself, you can feel, you will be able to see the completeness of this sentence. When you come into the world, you are at that stage as a baby. I am. You don't say I am a baby. Now I'm using the word, you come in the world as a baby, but the baby itself, or the infant, or the being that comes out of the womb is pure, is conscious. You can look at that baby or that being and see that the eyes are open, the eyes are moving, scanning its surroundings. Let's say the eyes were closed, just in case for those who want to argue that the eyes are open at first. Okay, the eyes were closed, then the eyes open. You can look at this being and see that it's conscious. The moment that being, that stage is I am. That stage right there, that's pure consciousness. That means there's no other information to add to am. Like I am a child, I am a boy, I am a girl, I am a teacher, I am a student, I am, anything that comes after the word am is later. It's taught to you. It's not the natural state that comes out of the womb. So when the first thing that the parent teaches the infant, the guardian, the parent, whatever, it gives it a name. So the infant doesn't even know it has a body. It doesn't associate itself with a body. It doesn't know any words. It doesn't know any word association. It learns it. So after a while, let's say the child gets wet or needs food, and then the parent or guardian gives it a name. Let's say the name is Johnny, and they say, well, and they start using that vernacular to that child, putting that energy, looking at this infant, and communicating these words or these sounds or these vibrations to that infant who knows nothing at this point. Now, if some people will say it does have information, it's genetically from his genetic link. We say, okay, but it's not aware of that information. It's totally responding autonomously and instinctively. Like when it's wet, it might cry because it's uncomfortable with the wet diaper on. Or if it's hungry, the body is hungry. It doesn't know it's hungry. It's just has a feeling which makes it cry. And then we start looking to see why this infant is crying. And we may check its diaper or we might give it food, right? So then we give it a name. We say, well, let's say Johnny. We say, is Johnny hungry? Well, we keep saying after a while, the infant will start to associate itself with that name, Johnny. After it hears it so many times, and then it gets attention every time it hears the word Johnny, and it gets touched, it gets picked, it gets fed, it gets changed. And usually a baby will start speaking in the third party, as in Johnny is hungry. When it starts to talk, it would say Johnny is hungry. So it speaks as a third party. It doesn't even say I am hungry. It doesn't even know the word I yet. So after a while, it starts to associate this sound I with itself, because it keeps getting the attention every time it hears this vibration or feels this vibration, hear these tones. The brain starts to develop, and it starts to learn language. It starts to identify. As it grows, as the brain expands and it becomes more knowledgeable, it starts to notice its form. It doesn't know its form right away. It can't say I'm in a form, I'm a baby, I'm Johnny, or none of that. But after a while, it starts to notice, and that's why this nursery rhymes say, like that one song, head, arm, shoulder, knees, and toes. It starts to teach it its body parts. And then that becomes the I. It starts to learn a different I, an I of this body and this name and these thoughts and these feelings, and that becomes one of those I's you're talking about. The I that most people are identifying with. It's taught this I. In the beginning, it's not taught. It just is. It's just consciousness. It just is. That's the purest state of consciousness. In religion, it says we must be born again. It's talking about returning your attention to that pure state of consciousness, that I am state of consciousness, existence. I am mean I exist. I exist. But the I that exists is consciousness. It's not the person yet, until it's taught about the body and the name and the form. That state, that pure conscious state, never leaves. It's always present. What leaves is our attention. And that education, our attention goes out to the body, to the words, to the definitions, to the interpretation of the experience. We start to interpret the experience. We start to learn a wall is the wall or the structure we're in is called walls. We start learning things like chair. We start learning things like refrigerator. We start learning things like food. All of these things are taught. So our brain, our minds are being programmed to identify with the world around us, including including the outer world of our body and this name. And as we continue to grow and get more educated, we start to associate with our professions like lawyer, doctor, teacher, student, and all, man, woman, and all these things, which comes with an expectation of what that is. So we accept that. We no longer are at that pure state of consciousness only because our attention goes out. But once you redirect your attention to that state that has never changed, is still right here, right now. Once you redirect your attention, you discover the I that is omnipresent, that is not just, like you said in the beginning, inside of you. It's not just inside of you. It's inside and outside of you, the body. Humanity is identifying itself, mistakenly identifying itself as the personification and not the original source, I am, the pure consciousness, which is God. We don't associate that. And so with all these different words, including the word God or Allah or Jehovah, that comes with a concept, a teaching, like God is a man, or God is inside of heaven, and heaven is outside of you. Now, as we begin to get more educated and we pick up and somebody points out scripture like St. Luke 17:21, who says, behold, the kingdom of God is within you. You start to, if you're curious enough, you start to ask that question, what does that mean? How could the whole kingdom or heaven be inside of me? And you already identifying me as the body. So with that level of consciousness as me as the body, you're going to have to answer that question. Or if you're interested, how could the kingdom of God be inside this body? Now, once you find that state that never has changed, that pure conscious state, just by shifting your attention to it and keeping your attention there, like if I ask you right now to shift your attention to your toes. You don't have to look down at your toes to feel your toes. Your attention just went to your toes. I say shift your attention to your knees. You don't have to look at that. You don't have to look down. You don't have to look in the mirror. You are aware of your knees right now. If I say shift your attention to your body's breathing, meaning your body is breathing without your permission, like your immune system and your blood flow. All of this is happening without you trying to make that happen. That's bringing you to another level of consciousness, saying that there's a universal energy that is sustaining this body. You're not in control of your breathing. You can control the by breathing techniques and how fast you breathe or how slow you breathe, but you can't stop breathing for a half hour. You can't. Your body is gonna happen. So with that being said, that's another level of consciousness. But back to, so the two eyes is the I am, the original I that our attention has been drawn away from, and it's been drawn to the I that we start to identify with as the person. So all of our interpretation of what I need to do and how I think is based on a misidentification of the first I, the true I, which is pure consciousness. So we're identifying the self as this person, and that makes us incomplete. That's just a part of us. The personification is just a part of the one I, the pure consciousness that everybody is, that all is, even the animals, the insects, the plant life, the mineral life, everything is conscious. If you study plants, you know plants are conscious. If you study the insect kingdom, you know insects are conscious. They don't have the same brain as a human. They don't process and they don't label things the way we do. They have their own language. They have their own, existence, but they are conscious. You turn the lights on in a roach-infested room, they will move because they know that something has changed. There's awareness that something has changed. The vibration has changed, which we call light and that type of thing. So we have to, in order to be balanced, to find your true self, and that's what you tapping into from time to time, like a lot of us do. It's not that we don't tap into the pure self, it's that we're not aware of it. We're not conscious of it, so we don't consciously go there when on demand, like I do now, because I've been meditating on this state of I amness for such a long time that it's just my natural. It's our normal levels of consciousness. The original I. It's normal. It's not something new. It's just your normal level, your first level of consciousness, and then you reduce yourself to the human or the personification level of consciousness, which is a fall from heaven. When they talk about a fall from heaven, they talk about from the original I am from the immortal self to the mortal self, to the human self. And then you be stuck in the human self and you're no longer aware. You're thinking without awareness. You're not aware of the pure state. You're operating in this human body and you're operating without the original, being aware of the original self. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, of course it does. Oh,
very good.
Somebody within admin person. And okay. So yeah, of course you make a lot of sense. I've been listening to your teachings for a long while. And oh, sorry, I don't know if this person should be in this room. Yeah. Yeah, of course it makes a lot of sense. When you get to that level of awareness, what happened for me basically was that it's like a remembrance. For me, it was just a remembrance of my original self. like you said, you made a very long, point about babies. And fortunately for me, I have a baby at home. She's 15 months old. And I know that she doesn't know that she doesn't have a name because we gave her the name. We searched on whatever and found a name and gave her. And so I know that that is not her name. I know that the soul is nameless. Doesn't have a name. It will never have a name. So we give her the name. We have been trying to call her by that name and keep calling her, trying to make her respond that name because that's the name she's going to use in the world.
Yes.
So, yeah, she needs to have a name in the world. She can't be nameless. So I don't know. I'm just grateful in a way, to have reached a kind of yeah. It sounds a bit. It sounds like bragging, that you have reached a level of consciousness because I mean, my mind works a lot, and I know that in this life, there are different games that people play. There's so many things to do, in the world. There are people that do. There are just different kinds of people. Basically, the world is complex. Complexity, the variety, of life. Some people are studying plants, insects. Some other people are doing business. Some people are doing Black Lives Matter. Some people are doing, we're doing all sorts of things, in life. And the combination, where we have found ourselves as a collective, is a period in life, that speaks to what you have been talking about. Everybody has been asked to stay at home for the past 4 months or so, and nobody's able to go out because, according to what we hear, a virus, and it just starts with one single. I mean, it's a microscopic entity. It's not something we can even see with our eyes. Has shut down everybody, even with all the knowledge we think we have, all the religion and all the everything that we believe we have. Everybody has been forced to change. Everybody has been forced to sit down at home. How will I put it? The economy has been shut down. Basically, the world as we know it is not how it is now. It's not how it was before. And this is just caused by a microscopic, like something that can never even be, that we can never see with our eyes. You need even an electron microscope can't even see a virus. So it's that tiny. That's the tiniest living organism, tiniest ever. So it just goes to show us, the same duality I was talking about, the overimportance that we give to ourselves, to our minds, and I mean, being able to breathe and do all the physical activities that we do, is not of our own doing. There's a divine intelligence. There's a universal intelligence that's pushing life forward as it is. There's a source energy that nobody can describe. That moves everything. I've studied the cell. I've done cell biology, so there's you study to an extent where you start asking questions. How did this one start? And it's the same with evolution. It's the same with the Big Bang. We're always going to be asking questions. What was before that? And even the Bible, like you said, says that in the beginning there was God, and that's how it started. So as we, I don't know. I tend to lose my train of thought, most times. But I'm going to shift back to how life has. Sorry, let me we need to put this thing back. Sorry.
No problem.
Okay, yeah. So I need to just shift back to my own present day experience and what I've been trying to achieve, with the contradictions in life. And I'll love you to. You said that there are two I ams, not two I ams, but there are two I's. The one that we have to be programmed to be in the world, and the I am that's eternal, that has been there, the source of everything. In the Bible, it's called the breath of life. Throughout the creation, according to the story of the Bible, God did not breathe his spirit into any other being apart from us. But I still look at it that we are still the last of the creation. We're the last of the creation according to the Bible creation, and according to evolution, we are the last to have arrived here on planet Earth. And we are not who we think we are. We are just composed of cells. Those cells, inside every single cell, there's that cell has a life, has an intelligence of its own that has nothing to do with us. It's functioning right now. As you breathe in and breathe out, they're fighting wars inside your body. There's an immune system. There's a defense mechanism. If you have a cut on your body, it doesn't heal it. There are things there already that are working. But what differentiates us is our seemingly ability, to talk, to communicate, with language. Even though the language is not perfect, it doesn't really reflect how will I put it? Language doesn't reflect what we want to say, basically. It limits it to the alphabets. There are just 26 alphabets in the English language. If you go to other languages, they have different phonetics or whatever that they use. So we are limited by that, by this language that we're using. We're trying to make sense of the world. And sometimes I just believe that it's not possible for the mind to even comprehend the entire universe and how it started and all that. It's just, I don't know. Well, the quest is okay. We are trying to, but it's just not possible. The Big Bang has been proposed by the scientists, and it just sounds like another kind of miracle too. Those kind of miracles that we read in the Bible, everything starts from nothing. So coming back down, do you believe there's a purpose to our existence here? Do you agree that, not agree because I'm proposing it, but what do you think about human beings having a particular purpose on Earth? Is there a collective purpose? Are we here to do anything? Is there really any need for us to be here? Can we just commit suicide and go? What is there a meaning to being here? And if there is, what have you thought about it, and what do you think it is?
The purpose of every human being is to awaken to its true self. That's ultimately, that's our purpose, is to awaken. Because it's the one, you say there is no way we can know how things started. There is a way. You are the beginning and the end. In fact, you're before the beginning and don't have an end. You're all that. But our attention we are limited by the ideal of ourself. When you discover your true self, the omnipresent self, then your views will shift. Your idea of creation will shift, because you are creation. And it's hard for the mind to grasp without the direct experience. And that's why we're pointing to something we try to do a guided meditation so that people can experience the pure conscious self. The pure conscious self doesn't do anything. There's a part of you, or the other eye, the true eye, doesn't do anything in the form of what the second eye does. Meaning, the person has to do things to survive in this physical dimension. We raise family, we have children, we go to work, we go to school, that type of thing. The original I, or that breath of life, creation, you, the true you, the universe, or the omniverse, which is multiple universes, simply is. It just is. It's noticing the play of life. It's noticing Big Bang Theory. We're having Big Bangs. Big Bangs are happening every day within you. It's just, the Big Bang is just the fusion of cells, atoms. If you know basic science, you know that everything is made up of atoms. Everything is moving, everything is vibrating. Even what seemingly appears to be still is moving in the form, is vibration. That's why they start the elemental chart with H1. The first element in this solar system or in this planet is hydrogen, right? Or existence is hydrogen, so they say. Now, they know that that can be broken down, and they have broken it down into quarks, biop, and zeds. So there's an etheric side to the manifested side, which they gave one. They gave the first element, the hydrogen, one, saying first, and then helium is 2. And then you go on and on, you got oxygen, which is 8. So they're naming these things as they discover it in existence down to its smallest element. So all of that is within you and within everything. And that's why they say the kingdom of God is within you, which could be you, the physical body, because your inside is atoms and space, and even your millions and millions of atoms, but even in between the atoms, there's nothing but space, just like the solar system. You got planets, you got star systems, you got galaxies, but there's the background of all that is space. So there's more space or stillness than there is activity. You are the stillness that's noticing the activity. But you have to shift your attention to that and experience the stillness, like it says in religion, be still and know I am. You have to sit still long enough to take notice of the activity that is happening, as even the expression, like even now, which this body and these vocal cords are expressing. I'm looking from the stillness, from the consciousness that's not doing anything other than noticing the activity, which is communicating and the expression of this body. I'm noticing that. Most people are not looking from that. What most people are looking for, they have to find where to look from, because we're looking at the world through these physical eyes, which are limited. You're limited by your eyes. You're limited by your sense of touch, taste, hear, feel, smell. If none of your senses was working, something would notice that. You would still be alive. But something exists that would notice that you have no sense of sight or hearing or touch. That doesn't mean you're dead. Even if your sense of touch, you would think, the mind will try to convince you that you would not exist. But you can't exist without seeing, without your eyes. You can't exist without hearing. You can't exist without your taste buds. You can't exist without, if something happened to your sense, a part of your brain that stopped you from feeling, that doesn't mean you're dead. You're dead. You're only dead when the brain completely stops functioning, the heart stops pumping. But all the other senses, you don't need to exist. Something is here that will be aware that you're just existent. You're still conscious. So we have to discover that, and then we would experience the beginning. You will know it. It will be an intuitive knowing, because you're not trapped in your body. You're not just you would notice your body. You would notice the breathing. You would feel the separation between the physical world and the stillness behind the noise, the space behind the noise. You would feel that, and that generates love. The fragrance of that, or the experience when you discover that, is unconditional love. It's a connection with everything in the boundless omniverses. You're aware of it. And so there's nothing to dislike It's nothing to compete against. It's nothing to hate. It's just a feeling of love and peace and harmony. That's the experience from finding that. And then you can operate in the other eye as the expression of that, as one of the expressions of that. You can operate without the attachment to it. So then when you don't have the attachment to identifying with the physical, then there's no more fear of death. There's no more fear of poverty. There's no more competition. All of the things that are keeping us divided ends, because you found that common denominator, that source that encompasses all. You fall in love with all. You start to understand the fall of man from that state of connecting with everything to believing he's an individual, he or she is an individual operating in here. And that individual is going to compete. It's going to have competition. It's going to have fears. It's going to experience suffering. It's going to experience all the limited, it's a limited expression of the divine. And that is what's wrong with humanity. And everybody's not going to arrive at this space at the same time. There's nothing wrong with you not knowing or not aware or haven't raised to that level of consciousness. It's because everybody's arriving at levels of consciousness differently. It's your experiences that take you through these levels of consciousness. Usually suffering, like it said in the Bible, Jesus learned obedience from the things he suffered. Suffering gets you to look for alternatives to existence. When you're sick and tired of suffering your experience, I'm talking suffering means anything that disturbs your peace. And the greatest of suffering they show in religion was when Jesus was nailed on the cross. So you have to literally crucify yourself, be a willing sacrifice in order to go beyond the limited I and experience the totality of God. You have to do it willingly. The second death, it talks about a first death and a second death in the scripture, but very few can explain that. So you have to willingly die like Christ, because Christ's story, whether you accept it as factual or not, his story is right and exact. It's about, first, he teaches you that you're God, St. John 10:34. He says, why are you stoning me? They say, because you're a man saying you're God. And he says, is it not written in your law, I said, ye are gods? St. John 10:34. And then you go to the books of David, Psalms, in Psalms 82:6, it says, ye are gods, children of the Most High. And then 7 say, but you will die like men and fall like one of the princes. Why? Because you're not accepting, you're not shifting your attention back to the immortal self. You're limiting yourself, so you're going to experience death and fear and all those things like one of the princes, because you are a prince. Everybody's calling each other king and queen, but king and queen worships God. There's still another level. You can be conscious that you're a king or queen, but you're still limited because you're still an individual. You're still in the consciousness of separation from the whole. You're not in a quantum state of consciousness. And that's what we're talking about, a quantum leap. You have to make a quantum leap in order to experience this, but you got to be willing to die, meaning go beyond yourself, not die like hang yourself or shoot yourself, but go beyond yourself. And the only way you can do that is through meditation. That's the only way. And the reason why people can't sit still long enough to meditate, and there are many forms of meditation, by the way, and a lot of them are there are different levels in meditation. Let's put it that way. Some are here to distract you. Some teachings are here to distract you from discovering the highest level because they want to control you, get your money, whatever. Everybody's out to get people's money or get their energy, because money is currency, which is energy. So there's different false teachings out there, but even the correct teachings are taking you through. I went through different steps of meditation because of what I thought meditation was, in order to reach to the 7th chakra, the crown chakra, because that's what you're talking about when you talk about Jacob's ladder and the chakra, the 7 chakras. You're going from the lowest level, which would be your root chakra, to your crown chakra. That's the journey. That's going into heaven. Your heaven is when your crown chakra is open and you make that connection with the omnipotent self.
Okay. I'll ask you. I just want to ask you a personal question. Yeah, I told you we're going to make this very raw.
Yes.
Yeah. With the knowledge you have and the experience you've been through, do you think you're better than most people?
Of course not.
Does it?
You can never.
Does
think
it increase
that
your your worth in the world? I'm just asking. I'm not being.
No, I got you.
I'm not being sarcastic in any way. Like, you know,
I'm aware of that.
I need to explain to you, you know, who I am, because this is you're the only one that how do I put it? You're one of the few, very, 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 very few people that I listen to, you know, that speak. I don't know that speak what I consider to be truth. You know, yeah. So I'm asking for the benefit of the people listening.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not asking because I don't know. I'm not asking because
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, okay,
I'm aware of that, family.
Yeah,
I'm very much aware, because you
right.
know we won. We are one. You're aware of what I'm sharing. I'm just able to share it from my walk. My experiences have enabled me to share it in this fashion. But we are one. So there's no way I can think I'm better than the next being, because I acknowledge all beings as God, like Jesus did. So it's just a matter of, do you know who you are or do you not know who you are? And if you don't know who you are, doesn't mean you won't ever get to learn who you are. It just means that right now you're not there. And that is purposely done. When creation created, the source created, it just did an outpouring of, it created what it created. And then what would the movie be like, the play of life be like, with everybody at the same place at the same time? This makes life interesting. You have a positive, you have a negative, you have things that are happening, like you started out with this show saying things are happening everywhere. That's the variety of life. How are you going to grow if you don't experience not growing? You know what I mean? Or the stages of growth. Let's put it that way. How would you know good if you didn't experience evil? So
yeah, sorry. Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
You're breaking up. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I have a personal question now. Now, this one is a real question.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand understand dimensions, not just not just mentally, you know, but also experientially. So I find that, you know, the more I go into that kind of meditation, and the more I try to identify, with the source that is me. The more I find myself moving further away, like moving out of the physical world, and just, I don't know, I feel there's something to do, you know. I know there's something to do in the physical world, and I'll have to interact with a lot of people that are playing different kinds of games in life. I know this game that we're talking about now is being hide and seek. You know, so many people are hiding, from who they are, and they, I've done it. I'm not just talking about people. Like, I have done it. I've been hiding almost all my life, and I've used different things to hide. I've been covering myself with alcohol. You know, I've covered myself with what I call it. I've covered myself with so many things, you know, and I don't know if I'm lucky or not, but in a way, I've always known that I've been covering myself. And if I have to expose, like if I have to take off all those coverings, you know, and bring out who I am, you know, I just feel it's a bit too much. I don't know I don't know what word to use for it.
Can I speak on that?
What I'm trying to ask you, yeah?
Let me speak on that, because that's the game of the mind. The mind you can't trust. You know why? because it'll tell you to do something and then tell you that you shouldn't have done it after you did it. So it's very unstable when you're not rooted in the true self. Because all the coverings that we use, alcohol, drugs, sex, all of those things that we use to express ourselves, you're right. They're layers. The mind is going to the mind does not want to be watched. And that's what meditation is, to watch your own thoughts, to watch your thoughts. And once you identify with the true self, you will see that those thoughts that says, I want to go and party, or I want to go and drink, or I want to do this, or I want to go do that, you'll start to question who's speaking. That's that voice in your head trying to pretend to be you. It's called Nakash. In Genesis 3:1, the word serpent, it says the serpent was the most subtle of all the beasts in the field. The word in Hebrew, in original language, was Hebrew or Aramic, is Nakash, which means to whisper. So there's a whispering taking place. We accept that whispering when, like you talked about, that conversation that you're having in your head. All of that, a lot of that conversation is based on a false idea of yourself, and you start to accept what it's saying as what's best for you or what you want to do. When in reality, we're supposed to be lining up with God's will, thy will. The only way you can get in alignment with thy will is to discover the true I, thy. You got to discover thy, not just in theory, because the mind will deceive you. Like, because I'm hearing the confusion that you're going through right now is only in your mind. It's only a thought. All this going back and forth is just thoughts. I can't do this. I can't reach a state of perfection. I'm limited. All these are thoughts that are identifying with a limit, with an ideal you have of yourself that is not real. So the only way that you can actually get rid of all that doubt and all that other foolishness is to meditate properly, and stay with it, because you got to stay with it. You can't just do it. Like if you want a six-pack in your stomach, you can't do it one day and expect a six-pack. You're going to have to be diligent in your practice so that it doesn't become a practice anymore. It becomes your reality. As I said from the beginning, it's about discovering your normal levels of consciousness. When you do that, your mind's quiet down and it doesn't identify with all the things that we picked up and have become addictions, like alcohol, drugs, sex, pornography, all those things we picked up because somebody introduced it to us through the media, through television, radio, billboards, books. All of that stuff is a program and it's a distraction. So the only way is to sit still long enough. Everyone needs a spiritual guide. Even though the spiritual teachers nowadays, they haven't reached the crown chakra. They know it intellectually, but they're not experiencing it actually, because they haven't been guided properly to that space that's not doing anything. I went through the stages of meditating and trying to put my spirit in another place and interact with girls in far and distant lands, and trying to raise myself out of my body and trying to experience the galactic heavens, flying, and all of those things that you even can do from time to time. That is temporary. It comes and goes. Your spiritual experiences, any spiritual experience that's coming and going is not the highest level, because the highest level does not change. When they say God is unchanging, the highest level does not change. It's always present. And it's not doing anything. You are really not. And if you are doing something that's happening so fine, it's happening so divine that you're not even noticing. You're not noticing the doing. All you experience is the stillness, the quietness, the peace, the contentment, the joy, the love. But you are constantly creating. The real you is creating. The omnipresent is creating all the time. But you have to sit still long enough to discover the benefit of who you are, or the completeness of who you are.
All right. I have one last question.
Yeah.
Just touches with from what you said. what is sacrifice? What did you mean when you said, you mentioned something about 2 deaths.
Yes.
First and the second one. I don't know if you could just summarize for us in a few minutes. I don't know. What does it entail? What is a sacrifice? How do we, and how many, and what is the second death?
Got you.
The first death, yeah.
First of all, you have to do what the scripture says. You have to love God with all your might, with all your soul, with all your spirit. You have to seek God. And you must be willing to sacrifice everybody and everything to get there. So if you're afraid, and we all go through, the mind is going to try to it's going to implant the thought of fear in your mind to say that if you go on this spiritual path, nobody's going to like you anymore. You're going to somehow change and become this monk and this not fun person, and nobody's going to accept you. And you're going to lose yourself, and you're not going to be able to do things anymore, and you're not going to be able to have fun. All of those thoughts are illusions. That's all based on what we believe ourselves to be. And it's not true. You're going to have your life will change for the better. You will enjoy life even more when you find yourself. You won't be interested in the lower levels of expression. Not like that. And if certain, and you don't have to expect it, you don't have to expect it to be some monk stage existence that you got to go up in the mountains and lock yourself away from everybody. You don't have to do that. But I will tell you this, people will fall away from you. You got to be willing to stand alone. That's the death that you're going to experience. The death that you're going to experience is you're not going to be the most popular person. You might not be the most popular person anymore. And you got to be willing not to be the most popular person. You got to be willing to stand alone. Because like you said, very few have decided to take this path because of the fear of not having fun or not being popular.
Yeah. It sounds it sounds familiar to me because I've been through that path. I've been through the hedonistic life. I was working in the bank in Nigeria, and I was getting a lot of money every month. And I was doing all sorts of things with the money, until my life crashed. And my life as I knew it, crashed. I knew it was coming. I saw it coming. And I didn't have the willingness, to stop it from happening. So I just let it happen, and
yes.
It happened, and it took everything away from me. So when I reached that lowest point, that was when I had no other choice, because I knew if I had continued, if I had not listened, to that suffering, that final suffering, I'll probably lose my life now. So I decided to change at that point. That was the lowest point in my life. It was it was a combination of everything I'd been doing for like 20-something years. It reached the crescendo. And that was the lowest. That was when I had to wake up by force. Had to wake up by suffering.
Yes.
And and that was I feel everything you're saying. I feel everything very, very deeply.
Very good.
I had to isolate myself. I had to die, basically, the world.
That's right.
I stopped
That's right.
on anything.
That's right.
On doing anything, My ego was completely shattered. The illusion, finally came. That was like the curtain just came down.
Yes.
Yeah. So sorry, I don't know why my phone is on. So that was what happened for me.
Yes.
It forced me to wake up. That was what I was asking you, from the beginning, how you came into this journey. I just wanted to know if you came in of your own volition, or if some kind of suffering brought you inside. For me, it was just that it was the deep suffering that came from wanting to hang on to the world.
I got you.
And
of course.
And something had to force me to let go.
Yeah. You want me to tell you what? You want me to tell you what kickstarted my journey?
I let go.
You know what kickstarted my journey? My wife, my relationship with my wife. We just had a son, and I think she developed a thyroid issue, and she lost interest in sex. Like when we first met, we had a very strong sexual relationship. And so when my child, during that pregnancy and when my child was born, it kind of shifted. I think, and I can't blame all her, I probably was shifting too, but I wanted to experience sex outside of my marriage. And I never thought I would do anything like that because I took my marriage very seriously. And I grew up with values of being faithful. So when I had this interest of cheating and I had this strong desire of cheating, I fell on my knees and asked God to save me from that. And he sent me 3 letters, Alif, Lam, and Ha, which is Arabic letters that is Allah. And when I got that, in whatever form that came in, I started to study Islam. And then I kept going from that point on. I went from Christianity to Islam to right knowledge, and now I've transcended knowledge and went into existence. You feel me? I had to let go of everything that I've learned and went there. But it was suffering. I was suffering because I wanted to cheat. I wanted to go get another girl. It was exciting when I was presented with those opportunities, but I didn't do it because I took that oath of marriage. But when I fell on my knees and God revealed me something else, it just kept changing. Everything just kept going and going and going. But yeah, that was it.
Yeah. Thanks for the discussion. We've done over 1 hour. This 1 hour 20 minutes.
Okay.
And I told you we're going to do 90 minutes. Yeah, and I know we're going to one day we may have to come back again.
Okay. It was fun. I appreciate it.
We need to come back again to even discuss. There are so many things. There are a lot of things we've left hanging.
Yes.
The concept of God. I know you talk a lot about. You use a lot of quotes from the Bible, even though you're not a Christian as such. I don't know. We have a lot of words.
I'm down with Jesus. I'm down with Jesus. I'm definitely down with
we're
Jesus.
The same,
Yeah, I'm down
I
with
love
Jesus.
the teachings of the Bible.
Yes,
because I studied it very deeply too. And I understand where it gets confusing. Some parts of it they seem a bit contradictory. Some of them point to God inwards, and some other parts point to God in the sky. And I guess
I got you.
Yeah, people pick and choose. Yeah. So there's a lot about the God concept that we have to do. We may have to expand on maybe in a few months or so.
Cool.
People don't want to accept themselves as God. People don't want to believe that they have the power to do a lot of things that they spend time praying for. Yeah, and you also mentioned some things about surrender and many other things that we could expand on. I love your truths, my brother. I love your truths. I learn a lot from you. I try to follow your podcasts, when you do them. And I just want to encourage you to keep on spreading the message.
Thank you, fam.
Yeah, we can't force it. All we can do is just to speak it, and that's what I was saying in the beginning. Somebody one, 2 people might just stumble on teachings. And if it helps them, then it helps them. Then it's okay. For me, it's just more like entertainment. And I just feel that urge, to speak out, just to talk, and to bring people like you on. And I hope I can find more people like you in the world. we've done
Very good.
about 90 minutes. Thank you for
Okay.
coming on. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
before we
Thank
go,
you.
sorry, we're not doing marketing or anything. Would you like to share with the participant, like, where they can find you, your works, and everything online?
Okay, Blog Talk Radio / OmniU, OMNI-U. That's my Blog Talk show, and YouTube is under Hotep, Talah Amun, HOTEP TALAHAMUN. That's 3 words. And I'm on Facebook under that same title.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, family.
Namaste.
Thank you very much. Namaste.
Bye.
Peace.